I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.
Hello fellow nerds and crafters. Today, as you can see, I'm going to be making some dice. I started making dice a few years ago. These are the few that I'm actually going to pour today. This is a chunk dice that is ready to go into the numbered dice mold. This one here is a blank and I put some flower stickers on it. They were nail stickers. So to start off, this mold here is from Wish or AliExpress. It was the first one that I started with. The lid is very thin. The bottom is empty. It's not filled, like it's not a huge chunk of silicone. And then there's these little things around the numbers on some of them. Not all of them. I'm not sure what they're for, honestly. I'm not going to be pouring that one, however. That was, like I said, Wish or AliExpress or something like that. The next one is from Temu. This is the upgraded version, it was called. The lid is still very thin. They don't have that weird thing around the numbers for some of them anymore, so those are gone. The bottom is still empty and hollow, and it comes with 3 different D4s. So I'm going to pour one of those, and I have the one up here prepared. So these 2 are my handmade molds, and they are made from master dice. So this is the lid. You can notice as well that there is no internal markings, they're called, I think. Internal keys. They're just on the outside, and it is a full piece of silicone. It's not empty in the bottom. And it has an indicator mark, so you know what dice are, so that you know that the dice are going on, the numbers are going on the correct dice. Wow. These 2 brown lids go together because they each have the same shape of D4. This one here is a blank mold, so there's no numbers on this one. This is something that you would do for what I'm going to do here. If you're putting something that may hold bubbles or cause bubbles, or might not fully cure because you use too much alcohol ink or something like that, you want to put it in a blank mold before you put it in the number mold. That will make sure that the outside of your actual dice are properly cured. In here, ready for the pour, I have some cellophane that I've just cut some bits off of and crinkled it up and poked it into the mold. And like I said, this is a brand new mold that I just made. It is a numbered mold, so this blank will go into this numbered mold, and it will create a shell on the dice with the numbers. So the biggest difference between the Temu mold and my handmade mold here is, right away you can see my handmade mold is a full piece pour. It is fully thick silicone. It's not hollow, and that could come into play with when I put it in the pressure pot like I do to make dice. The dice could possibly get squished and misshapen the dice. So that's something that could happen, but I'm going to do it the way that I do my regular dice so that we can see. You can't really fill this with silicone in the back because that could also smush the dice around, so I don't think that would work. You can't fill it in with more silicone. You need to pressurize your molds about, or at least dice molds specifically, about 10 to 15 psi higher than you plan to pressurize your dice for. This is so that when you pressurize your dice, your mold is not squeezing on your dice and misshaping the dice. So I usually pressurize my dice molds as high as I can get them, at about 55 psi, and then when I pressurize my dice inside of these molds, I go about 35 psi. So in this Temu mold, what I have in here right now are these little thin tinsels. They're like hair tinsel that you can clip in your hair, I think. I just got these from Amazon. You can use Angelina fibers. I haven't found any that I can get, but I think they're for fishing. I think you make them for your hooks, like when you're making your own fly fishing hooks or something like that. I think you use Angelina fibers on those to decorate your hook. I'll be using these Tim Holtz Ranger inks, pearl alcohol inks. That's the word I'm looking for. Pearl alcohol inks in Tranquil and Intrigue, I think that one was, the pink one. And a little bit of contrast, less resins, resin dye in black. And I'll make that kind of transparent. For this mold, which is just the numbers, I'm going to be using mica powders. These are all different brands. I just wanted some sort of galaxy color look. Also with the black from Let's Resin. And then this one that's got the cellophane in it already, I'm going to do resin pigment dyes. They are transparent resin dyes by Decoram in violet, blue, and turquoise. And then also this Let's Resin resin dye peach red. I'm hoping it'll be pink and not burn orange or brown. The chunk one is just going to be clear, and I have extra molds in case I have extra resin. And I'm going to add the May Springs Dazzling Diamond into the clear of everything. So I didn't hit record, and I fully did this temu mold off camera, so I'm going to show you how I did it in my chunk blank mold. So I'm going to start with taking the hair tassels, and I'm going to wrap them around my fingers just to make it easier to put it inside the mold. Once I have these fiddly pieces of string in this mold, I'm going to pour a little bit of clear. I poured too much clear, so I'm pouring that back out. I only want about halfway. Then I'm going to take the pearl inks that I chose, and I'm going to put a few drops in. And then I'm going to take some clear and I'm going to swirl it in there to break it up a bit. I've heard this be called a slush pour. I don't know if that's just for dice. That's just what I'm going to call it. This is my little bit of transparent black. I'm going to put that on top. This is still not filled, this mold, at the end of this. Do want a little bit more black, so I'm going to mix that up. And then I'm going to go back in with the inks again and pour a couple drops in there again. This isn't a blank mold, so I'm not being too shy on the amount of ink I'm using. And then I'm going to go back in again with the clear and break that up a little bit. And back in with the black. And I'm just going to place that to the side to let any bubbles rise for a little bit. And I'm going to mix up a bit more black, and we're going to start with the mica powder set. I'm just going to pour a little bit of each color, one after the other. So once that's done, I'm just going to put it to the side, and I'm going to pour all of my extras in this other mold. I'm just going to have this mold off to the side where I'm going to pour in all the rest of my extra resin. So onto the blank mold with the cellophane in it, I'm going to mix up more black. And then I'm going to mix up the resin dye in little cups, so the resin dye is mixed in and not dropped on like the alcohol ink. Once I have those mixed up, I'm just going to pull out the cellophane from inside the mold and dip it into some clear resin to coat it, and then push them back into the mold. Once I have those all dipped, I'm just going to go in with each of the colors and layer them on top of each other. When that's done, I will move back to the extras mold and just pour everything into that die set. And when that's full, I'll just put on the lid. I checked them all for bubbles on top, got rid of any with bubbles, and then put the lids on all of the molds. For the temu mold, it's a bit different, doesn't go on as easily as my homemade molds. You have to get the little keys into each pocket, which can be a little bit of a pain, especially because the lid is so thin, and you don't want too much resin in between, so that's why you can see me squishing the resin out. So here's my chunk mold from earlier that's all done and going into the shell. I'm just going to put on some clear resin over top of the mold so it slips in a little bit easier. Make sure that it's oriented in the right way and scoop off any extras from on top of the piece, and just put enough resin in so it's domed. You don't want a huge amount of resin left on your mold because that'll lead to a very thick flashing when you go to demold. So the color on the temu mold is looking really cool, but I'm going to start with the blank molds. So the colors are looking really cool, and this stuff is called flashing. It's very thin resin, and you can generally just peel it right off. So this is the same kind as I did in the temu mold. The blank molds are usually matte because it is easier to shell them that way, and you don't have to do as much work to polish them in the first place, since you're just going to put resin over top of them again anyway. It will also help the resin adhere better to it. It's a little bit hard to see. The pink did burn a little bit. It's a little bit orangey. I also have some markings on my mold, but that's fine because this is a blank mold, so it's going to get, again, filled with resin again, so I just take those off with a knife. So next I'm on to my blank set. This is the one with the cellophane in it and the transparent colors. So as you can see, the flashing is very thin and it peels off pretty easily. I usually do it with tape. I'm not sure why I didn't this time. It's a lot easier to take it all off with tape. So you can see that there's just two, but there's a few bubbles in this mold, which again is why I recommend, if you're doing something like this that holds bubbles, you do it in a blank mold, because this is then going to go into another mold with the numbers and you're going to put resin in it again, and the resin will fill that hole. So this is what they're looking like. They're really cool looking. They still need the numbers, of course, but they look really cool. I think I fully forgot to mention Cindy from Moonray Magical Designs on YouTube. You should go check her out if you haven't. She suggested that I try to do galaxy themed dice, so that's what I've been doing this whole time, and I think these ones turned out really awesome. So onto my mica powder set. This is what they look like. And they all need to be sanded and polished still, of course. But I do that after a couple days of them being fully cured. Most dice, you're looking at 3 dice faces that you have to sand and polish. Some, like the D6, usually only takes the one that's up on the lid, so number 1. Okay, so here is the temu mold. The first thing I see is a giant void, and I realized I did what I said not to do, which is put stuff that's going to create bubbles into the number set dice. So it doesn't come with a blank mold, and I did it anyway. So I decided I'm going to redo it. But first of all, the flashing on this is very thick. I smushed as much of the extra resin as I could out. You saw me when I put the lid on. But it's still, it's super thick flashing, which can create raised faces as well. And another difference is, with my handmade mold, you can squish the piece so that the flashing pops up. You can't really do that with this temu mold because it is hollow. so the sides just flare out and it doesn't really break up the flashing on top. So it makes it harder to remove. I usually use this tape method with my handmade molds too, so I'm not sure again why I didn't do that, because it's also easier to clean up instead of leaving little pieces all over the table. So this is what they look like. The dice mold here, the Temu one, comes with a couple extra D4s, so there's the original caltrop shape. This one here is caltrop. This one's like a barrel shape, I think they call it. That's the one with the big hole in it. And this one, I think most people call it a teardrop shape. So it comes with 3 different 4s, which is cool, but like I said before, you shouldn't be putting stuff that will make bubbles. So that was my bad, and I am going to redo that mold, just to be fair, in this video. And I'll just do it in colors without any extra added anything that might make bubbles. But what I do like is that there's not a lot of cleanup, especially on this D20. Like, there's not a lot to be sanded on this. The original Wish mold often left really big raised faces, and once you sanded those raised faces off, you ended up sanding off the number. That's how much you had to sand. So those were no good. This one is definitely an improvement. So here is what I believe is my extras mold. This is where I put all of the mica and then all of the resin colorant mix. I'm not sure where this defect came from on my mold. It might be because when I made the mold, you can see there's a little divot close by, so that might have been what happened. But I can sand that out on my mold, or my dice, so I'm going to be able to fix that without any problem. So like I said, this is my extras, and it had the mica and the clearer transparent resin in it, and I think I actually like it more than just the mica set. So the one on the left is the micas, the next one is the hair tassel, which is the same as the Temu mold, and the one on the right is the all mixed color. The two here, the chunk and the set, obviously need to be recast into the numbered mold. And I wanted to compare some of the sizes. So I think overall the Temu dice are larger than my dice currently, but if you were to make your own dice from the beginning and dice molds, you can make them whatever size you want. The D4 is a lot larger for the barrel shape. And here is my extra chunk that I originally had that went into the numbered mold. So now the blank has the numbers because it's been shelled, so I just have to sand and polish the top face and surrounding ones, and then I can color in the numbers on this one. So this is the next day when I decided to redo some of the things. So first I am going to shell the chunk that I made, just with clear resin and the little bit of sparkle. Same with the blank set that I made with the cellophane in it. So I just pour in a little bit of clear, and then I coat the dice with clear, and then I shove them into the mold, and then I top up when I need to with more resin. So this is another blank mold. It has cellophane in it. I've just dropped some clear and smushed the cellophane around. And I'm going to put that off to the side for a minute. I'm actually going to come back to that one. This one here is another blank mold. It has the hair tassels in it. I kind of went crazy and decided to try all the different combinations. So this one's got the hair tassels with the alcohol inks and no added black resin. This is the temu mold again, and all I'm going to do for this one is just drop in colors. Colored transparent resin. Same 3 colors, I think. 2? Same 2 blue and pink color I used, and some black it looks like, to put into the temu mold. And that's all I was doing in this one because I didn't want to give it any reason to create bubbles anywhere, or anything going wrong with it. So I know this video is a long one, and if you are still here, thank you very much. If you have not yet subscribed but you enjoy watching Resin, normally my videos aren't this long, but if you like this, let me know too. If you can follow me or subscribe to me, comment, like this video, all of that's very helpful for me. So the last thing I'm doing is the cellophane with clear, transparency colored resin. Alright, and this is the demold. I cleaned up beforehand and I just wanted to show you this cool flashing. So here is the temu mold. I didn't clean up that flashing because it is, again, very thick. I got divots or holes, bubbles, whatever, again. There's no way to get this thin enough, I think, the flashing. I think that this internal key is the reason for the holes. A lot of dice maker and dice mold makers, a lot of them don't like internal keys for this reason. It just gives another way for bubbles to kind of create, which is not ideal. So these are 2 unusable dice, so that is unfortunate because I didn't add anything extra into this mold except for color. The flashing on them's not bad. You might not get such giant hole divots if you didn't put it in a pressure pot. Maybe it's because there wasn't enough resin to replace when the bubbles get pressurized. And maybe if you leave it on your table, you won't have that problem, but you will have a bunch of micro bubbles on the lid of your dice. So if you want fully bubbleless dice, I really don't think that a temu mold is good enough. If you're just messing around for fun, it's probably fine, but you can't get this lid on, like, fully tight. There's a little bit of a gap always. The internal keys aren't helpful, really, to keep it held down You can't really put anything on top of it because it will be too heavy and smush your dice. So onto this set. These are blanks again. They came out really pretty. And they need to be shelled. And this is the other set of blanks again. This one has the little hair tassels in it. They also need to be shelled again. It was the same as the first temu set that I made where I put in the tassels and the drops of ink. And with my mold, I did not get a giant divot even with using the tassels, so I just don't trust the temu mold. It just didn't work out for me. Next up is a set that was previously a blank set, and so I shelled them. And they came out really, really pretty. This one's the one that had the cellophane in it. I think this was the transparent resin as well. Honestly, in this video I made so many dice, I'm not 100% sure which one is which when it comes to the end result photos. This is the shelled version of the chunk die with the hair tassels in it, so this now has numbers on it that can be painted. I don't think that Tim Holt's pink burned as badly in the smaller dice either. I think it burned more in the large die. So these are the temu molds. I really don't recommend it. I just don't like them. If you're doing it just for fun, just for hobby, you're never going to actually use these dice, which does seem like a little bit of a waste of resin to me. But if that's what you're going to do, go for it. They're really cheap molds. But if you want dice that actually work, I would say probably not. For the most part, you're not going to get a full set of dice. These guys have to go in their shells, and I will show you pictures of all of the finished dice now. Again, I'm not sure which ones are which in some of them are a bit close, but I hope you enjoyed this very long video. Sorry it was so long, usually they're not this long. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, leave a comment if you would, that would be very helpful. And I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.